because the Senate urged a lot. Lucina looks at him and laughs. She tells him not to worry about her and to take care of himself as she can live without Hawken for a week. Hawken hugs her and says that he'll stay with her until he leaves. Titi looks at them from a distance and says if Lucina is happy then it's fine. A few days later, Hawken is standing outside the palace with some men and Lucina. He says that they do when the castle is attacked, so only a few people will travel to Messaluk with him. He tells his men to take care of themselves as the number of men will be smaller than usual. The soldier agrees to Hawken's orders. He steps towards Lucina, holds her face and kisses her. They both look into each other's eyes and tell her to stay in bed for a while, and she refuses. At this time Turan tells Hawken that he has to leave now and he says goodbye to Lucina. Lucina tells him to be careful while letting go of his hand. Hawken leaves with his men while Lucina watches him. On the other hand, the news of Hawken's departure has reached Garrett. She smiles wickedly and calls Lucina a poor girl, saying that she has no idea what is waiting for her. A few days later Hawken has left. Lucina is sitting in her room with Titi, and she asks her when will Hawken be back. Titi tells her that there is not much time left. Lucina is quite upset and Titi looks at her and says to herself in Saya that Lucina is getting depressed because she stays in her room. She says that Lucina's mood might have been renewed by studying writing if Jera had not been in prison. Titi asks Lucina to go for a walk or have a bath. Lucina says that she can only stay in her room, and Titi asks her if she has anything to feel better and tells her to go outside. They leave the room and a black shadow appears. As soon as they leave, the shadow has been keeping an eye on them. Meanwhile, Titi asks Lucina if she feels better, and she replies that since Hawken is not with her, she feels a bit uncomfortable. A soldier approaches them from behind and tells Lucina that he needs her to go with him for a moment. Titi asks the soldier what is wrong, and he says that a sinister subject has been found in Lucina's room and tells Titi that they will have to check it together. Lucina gets worried and wonders if something odd has been found in her room. She can't understand the situation, but feels like there are some misunderstandings as no one has entered her room for the past few days. Titi asks the soldier if it's a misunderstanding. She says that she has been together with Lucina for the past few days and asks how something odd can be found in Lucina's room all of a sudden. The soldier that he doesn't know and that the truth is that they have found something related to the king in Lucina's room. He grabs Lucina's hand and tells her to go with him. Titi immediately comes in between him and Lucina and asks him how could he do such, as she also warns him for bringing it into the king's knowledge. And he hits Titi with all of his force. T falls to the ground, and the soldier asks Lucina if she is ready to go to the palace. He grabs her by her hand and drags her as he walks away. The soldier drags and throws Lucina into her room, and Garrett is standing there already with some servants. Garrett tells Lucina that an employee of the palace says that he found something odd in her room. Lucina asks what is it, and Garrett tells the servant to show her the thing. The servant shows a dark candle to Lucina, and she quickly recognizes it. Garrett says that Lucina has recognized the candle immediately as expected, and says that the candle is the same one as that used to cast a spell on the king. Lucina could not believe anything. She had seen the candle for the first time, and there wasn't anything like that in her room. Garrett asks Lucina if she means to say that she is lying. She says that the guard who found the candle took it to the temple, and the people in the temple felt the power within the candle. She asks Lucina if she still won't admit her crime. She says that she doesn't want to doubt Lucina. She says that until the king returns, all the procedures and laws are implemented. Garrett tells Lokaina that she has to stay in her room until the king returns, and Lucina says to herself that all the doubts will be clear when Hawken returns. Garrett tells Lucina that she can rest for a few days and leaves the room. On the other hand, in the Messaluk, Hawken is with the priest and his soldiers. The rituals for his brother's burial are taking place as he gets out into the coffin. The priest tells Hawken to put the things in the coffin that he brought. Hawken puts some objects in the coffin beside his brother's dead body and tells him to rest. He tells him that soon he'll bring him the head of his murderer coffin. Hawken tells his soldiers that the priest's blessing will take place immediately and they will return after the barrier has been installed. He holds the coffin and says that he cannot leave Lucina by herself as he doesn't know what could happen while he is away. Meanwhile, Lucina is sitting in her room. Puka looks at her from the outside of the window. He says that she looks sad and cannot believe that she didn't notice him even though she has returned. He suddenly looks at two men, dressed in all black outfits, hiding their faces, approaching Lucina's room. He wonders what should he do as he can't show himself. He hits one of the men with something on his head, and the man starts to look here and there. He tells his mate that something just hit his head, and he says that he must have imagined it. One of the men says that they don't have time and they should hurry up. Pukar is getting worried. He thinks of doing something, and flies away saying that he should bring Hakan quickly. On the other hand, Hakan is already on his way to the palace as he rides his horse through the forest. Lucina is sitting in her room. The men dressed in black break the window and enter her room. Lucina gets scared as she hears the glass shatter, and she asks who's there. The men appear in front of her, and she calls for help and tells the guard to help her. Lucina gets no response from the guards, and she asks if there is no one outside her room. The men take hold of Lucina as they put their palms against her mouth. Lucina tells herself to keep her eyes open. Garrett is standing outside Lucina's room. She is listening to Lucina's struggle and calls her stupid, saying that when Hakan returns, she will tell him that Lucina escaped due to the fear of punishment. She says that no matter how hard Hakan tries to find Lucina, it won't make any sense. Puka is flying looking for Hakan, wondering if it's his time to be back. Meanwhile, Lucina's kidnappers have escaped the palace and taken Lucina with them. They are riding their horses, and one of them asks the other, ensuring that they won't be caught. The other one tells him not to worry, and says that there is no way Hakan will return from Mesluk soon. As they are in the forest, it starts to rain, and the kidnapper tells his partner that their horses won't be able to run in such weather. They plan to take a short break and say that the weather is just a drizzle and that it will stop soon. They find a cave in the forest, and get off their horses so that they can take shelter in the cave and then continue their journey later. The kidnapper asks his partner if they should kill Lucina, and the partner replies that her body will be found rapidly if they do so. Lucina wonders if the kidnappers are going to kill her. She is afraid that her son will never be born and won't be able to see his father. Hawk and the kidnappers are busy talking to each other. Lucina intends to take advantage of the situation, and she quickly starts to run as fast as she can, and the kidnappers try their best to stop her. Lucina is running bare feet in the forest. She is running for her life, and suddenly she gets her feet stuck in the wood, and she falls to the ground and starts to bleed. Lucina notices the blood and she can't believe it. She is in great shock. As Lucina is down on the ground, the kidnappers get her and come up to her with a sword, asking her if she thought she could run away. The other kidnapper says that they have no choice other than killing her. The first one agrees with his partner and says that after killing her, they just have to take her body to a further place. Suddenly, two soldiers dressed in metal armor appear from the bush. They swing their swords and kill the kidnappers one by one. Lucina wonders if the person to save her is Hakan. She calls Hakan's name, and the person takes off his helmet. He smiles at Lucina and asks her if that is her husband's name. It's the Baroness's son. He looks at Lucina and says that it's been a long time. Lucina was shocked as she recognized him. On the other hand, Hakan has returned to the palace. The servants are surprised to see him back so soon. They ask him how is he back so early. Hakan replies that he is worried about his wife, and enters the palace. He asks the servants what has happened in his absence, and the servant stays silent. Titi notices him. Hakan asks her if she is Lucina's servant. Titi replies positively and gives off a sad expression. Hakan asks her if something bad happened when he wasn't around. Titi hesitates and tells Hakan that Queen Garrett blamed Lucina for using black magic and imprisoned her. Hakan gets angry and says that he must see Lucina immediately. Titi takes him to Lucina's room, and Hakan enters the room and wonders if everyone believes that Lucina uses black magic. He wonders how could everyone fall for words coming from Garrett. He notices Lucina is not in her room and is left speechless. The Baroness's son looks at Lucina and says that it's been a long time, leaving Lucina in complete shock and silence. For a long time the Baroness and her son have been struggling. The son was served a single slice of bread as his meal, and he got angry and asked his servant if he would have to have such a meal. The servant apologized to him and told him that all the stockpiled food was gone and the grocery wasn't paid. Baroness's son got angry and threw the plate at the servant, saying that if they didn't have money then they should figure out something. His mother didn't show her face and all the servants were making excuses. His servant told him that a guest had come to see him, and he started to think who would come to meet him, and told the servant to let the guest in. Later he was talking to the dark wizard and yelling at him, saying that he was told by him to rob the Mezzalok. He said that he wouldn't have ended up like that if he didn't rob the Mezzalok. The wizard held him by his shoulders and said that he knew how to solve the situation. He told him to do as he said to subside the king's anger. He asked the wizard for the method, and the wizard whispered his idea in his ears. He smiled wickedly and asked the wizard if he wanted him to bring Lucina. In the forest, Belen and the wizard are standing in front of Lucina. Belen asks the wizard about Lucina's baby, and he replies that the baby in Lucina's womb is completely fine. Lucina is glad that her baby is safe, as she was afraid that something might happen to her baby if it bled Belen. The Baroness's son asks the wizard if it will be once he takes her, and the wizard says yes. Lucina gets worried and asks them if they are talking about her. She asks them where are they taking them. Belen says to her that she has always been mute and now she is talking like a barbarian. Belen orders his men to take Lucina away. Lucina says that they can't take her like this to Brian. She screams and tells them to let her go as she wants to go back to Tyre. Belen gets angry and shouts at Lucina, saying that she ran away to Tyre and now he is living like a beggar with his mother. He holds her by her hair and tells her that she has already ruined their family and now she dares to defy him. Belen raises his hand and says to her that she should get beaten up just like she used to be to get her head straight. Lucina gets scared and closes her eyes as Belen is about to hit her. Suddenly Belen hears a strange noise, and he looks behind his back and sees a red-skinned dragon flying in the sky staring right at him. Belen gets surprised to look at the dragon, and Lucina recognizes the dragon at first. It's Hakan. Belen says that he hasn't heard anything about this, and he asks if the king is not supposed to be away for a while. The dark wizard seems to have lied to them. He tells some men to run and also turns around to flee. Lucina is still sitting on the ground with her eyes closed as she is still afraid. Hakan tells her to keep her eyes closed, and he uses his weapon to behead his enemies one by one. Hakan has turned to his human form. He faces Belen again as he is running for his life. His feet are stuck in the wood and he falls on the ground. Hakan is standing behind him and says that he spared his life at his mother's request, as he is the one who robbed Mesluk in the past, and now he dares to kidnap his wife again. Belen gets scared and says that it's nothing like this. He says that there is some misunderstanding. Hakan ignores his words and he swings his weapon again, chopping Belen's head off. He looks at Belen's corpse and questions if he should tear him from limb to limb, then throw them to the beasts as food. Lucina calls for Hakan. He quickly turns to her and she tells him to stop, saying it's enough. Hakan tells Lucina that Garrett said that she ran as she was afraid of the punishment. He holds her in his hand and asks how this all happened. Lucina tells Hakan to go back to the palace as she is too tired. The next day, Lucina is lying in her bed and Hakan is standing beside her. The priestess is also there. She tells Hakan that Lucina's bleeding was significant, but fortunately the baby in her womb is completely safe. The priestess tells Hakan to rest as he must not be able to sleep in the past few days. Hakan refuses, saying that there are still things that need to be resolved, especially those who dared to frame his wife, as Garrett has been imprisoned for her crime. A few days later, Garrett is presented in front of Hakan as a prison. The servants made her kneel. Hakan tells her that she has been envious of Lucina for a long time, and even tried to frame her for using black magic, even though she is the one to lead the use of black magic. Garrett says that she doesn't know anything about black magic. She says that she is ready to accept her punishment if her sin is not able to stop her brother. Hakan tells Garrett that she is still lying and orders the guards to let Jaira in. Jaira comes in and stands beside his sister as the king tells him to speak up. Jaira says that he has been using black magic for a long time, at the behest of his sister, and Garrett goes in complete shock. Jaira says that he had used black magic to disturb Ardar's mind in the king. Hakan says that Jaira has confessed everything, and he asks Garrett if she is still going to deny it. Garrett says that everything Eli said is a lie, and she asks for Ivit. Herlin tells her that her maids have also confessed, as they served his mother to conceal the truth that she had been bewitched. He says that they have prepared many false evidences in anticipation of being questioned by him. Hakan tells Garrett that she has used black magic to disturb the country of Tyre's queen and king. Hakan orders his men to strip Garrett off her title as a criminal and sentences her to death. Jaira tells Hakan to wait a minute. He says that it's also his fault that his sister used black magic. He says that she has dedicated herself to Tyre as the former queen consort, and he requests the king to consider this point. Other people also think that the punishment is quite harsh and ask Hakan to review his decision. Hakan agrees to do so. He says that he'll strip off her title, imprison her in the southern palace, and leave a mark on her body so that she will never forget her crime for the rest of her life. He then turns to Jaira. He says that Jaira should also be executed for using black magic, but also Hawkins says that since Jaira has confessed to all of his sins, then he'll just mark his body and sentence him to hard labor. The servant takes jelly with them as he turns. Garrett tries to confront him and he tells her that he has repaid all his debts to his sister for raising him, and now he'll never have to listen to his sister's orders. He says that as long as he can stay away from his sister and stay in Messina's house, it doesn't matter if he can just live. A few days later, Hawken is in Lucina's room talking to her. Lucina asks Hawken if Jaira's use of black magic is true. She says that Julie's guilt has indeed been revealed, but she feels uneasy. Hawken says that he has been giving Lucina bad news continuously. He says that he should give her some good news as well. He says that Lysiene has decided to bestow upon Lucina the position of temporary queen. He tells her that it has been decided this morning. It's natural because she is pregnant with a guardian dragon, and that she will be moved to the position of queen after the marriage ceremony. Lucina says that even if it's temporary, she is the queen of Tyre. Hawken tells her that he has another surprise gift for her. Lucina asks what is it, and Hawken gives a sign to Titi. She smiles and opens the door, and Adar enters the room. Lucina gets excited to see her and asks her if she has been well all this time. Adar looks at Lucina and asks who's that. Titi says that Adar has not fully recovered. Hawken says that it seems that she has been under the influence of dark magic for too long. He says that he needs to help her get rid of her. Lucina says that she will also help him as she wants to be by his side. Hawken asks if it is okay and she says yes. Lucina tells Adar that she will be living with her in the palace and asks her if she is okay. Calls her a pretty sister, and Hawken says that they need to prepare a room for his mother in the palace. Lucina asks Hawken if they can get Gilai's help to help Adar completely heal from the dark magic. Hawken gets confused, and Lucina says that if someone can cast black magic, then they must know how to break free from it. She says that Adar's condition will improve a lot if they get Jaira's help. Hawken agrees to Lucina's request and tells her to do as she pleases. Meanwhile, the Baroness is looking for her son. She suddenly sees the blonde assassin leader coming towards her from a distance. She first mistook her as her son Balin, but as the assassin leader, but as she comes closer, the Baroness gets shocked to see her. The leader tells the Baroness that it's been a long time, and the Baroness asks her why is she here after abandoning her daughter to her. The Baroness asks if she has come to tell her about the news of her husband's death. The leader laughs and says to the Baroness that her husband has passed away a long time ago. The Baroness gets shocked and asks the leader what is she saying. The leader calls her foolish and says that she just took it all without knowing anything when her son and husband passed away. The Baroness gets angry and says it's not possible. She asks the leader where is she getting the nerve to lie with that dirty mouth of hers. The Baroness suddenly starts to cough as the leader is using her powers to kill her. The Baroness falls dead to the ground, and the leader wipes her hand with a handkerchief, saying that Lucina's child is safe. A month has passed since Lucina has been awarded with the position of temporary queen. The palace had become more peaceful than before. The only thing that changed was that Jaira had come to the palace to treat Adar periodically. Heken and Lucina are walking around the palace smiling and talking to each other. Jaira passes them as he is held by the soldiers. Lucina gets upset to see him, and Hawken asks him about his mother's condition. Jaira tells him that she is improving, however she is too old and has been under the influence of dark magic for a long time, so it will be difficult for her to completely regain her sanity. He says that he has almost removed the black magic effects, hence Ida can have normal conversations now. Hawken tells the soldiers to take Jaira to the prison and they take him away. Lucina looks at him, and he seems upset. He turns away and leaves with the soldiers. Hawken asks Lucina if she wants to go with him to check on Edda's condition, and she replies excitedly that she'll go with him. A few moments later, Hawken and Lucina are standing outside Adar's room and Hawken is staring at the door. Lucina asks him if he is uncomfortable seeing Adar, and he refuses, saying that he doesn't know what Garrett was doing to his mother. He regrets leaving his mother in Garrett's care. He says that he doesn't have the face to see his mother, and wishes he had paid more attention to his mother. Lucina holds his hand and tells him that his mother won't blame him. Hawken smiles and hopes she is right. Hawken enters the room with Lucina, and finds his mother sitting on a chair by the window. They both look at each other. Adar walks up to him and asks him if he is really Hawken. Hawken apologizes to her mother for coming late. Adar tells him not to apologize and says that she has done terrible things to her. She says that it is said that people who are bewitched forget what they did. But she remembers she has sinned against him. She apologizes to Håkon for all the harsh words she said to him. Håkon says to his mother he should be the one to ask forgiveness and hugs her. Lucina is glad to look at both Håkon and his mother. She is happy that they are finally confirming their true feelings to each other. Ada smiles at Lucina and asks her if she can spare her a moment as she has something to tell her. Lucina agrees to her request and wonders what is Ada calling her for. After a while, Ada and Lucina are sitting across from each other. Ada thanks Lucina, and she says that she hasn't done anything, though Za says that it's not true. She tells her that when she escaped from the Cossack and came to the palace, even though she didn't know she was, and even though her mind was intact, Lucina was always kind to her. Lucina tells Ada that it is only natural, and Ada says that his son's wife-to-be is so humble and so cute for being shy. Lucina gets shy as Ada compliments her. Ada hopes for Håkon and Lucina to get along well. She tells Lucina that in the past she had been married to the king of Tahar through a plunder like her, and it was quite hard for her to adapt to this palace. She couldn't love her husband for this reason, and instead she became obsessed with her sons. She says that Garrett, who became queen after her, wanted to be queen herself, but she couldn't overcome her greed and destroyed herself. Ada tells Lucina that she is different from Garrett and her. Lucina says that she decided to become the queen herself through her love for Håkon. Bart tells Lakina that she hopes that she will rule Tyre well with Håkon. Pukar is listening to their conversation as he is sitting outside the window. She says to Lucina in his mind that she is just talking about boring stuff, and instead of doing so she should give him some peanuts. Pukar is in his sparrow form. He flies away and he looks at a bird. He notices that the bird is sending a message somewhere from the palace. He gets excited and says that something interesting is about to happen, and he follows the bird. A few moments later, the bird arrives at a place and lands at the widow. A woman takes the message from the bird's feet and opens it. She is the assassin leader. She reads the message and giggles, saying that Tyre is becoming more and more stable. Pukar has also followed the bird and he is looking at the woman reading the message. At first he wonders who is the woman, and he suddenly realizes that the woman looks exactly like Lucina. The woman continues to read the message, smiles, and tells Lucina to work harder for herself as she speaks to herself. Pukar looks at the assassin's leader and wonders who she is. He realizes that she looks like Lucina exactly. He says that except for the hair color and makeup, she looks exactly like Lucina and seems to know her more. The woman hears his voice and suddenly flinches. She looks in Pukar's direction. Pukar hides himself, saying that it was close. He flies away, saying he shouldn't have said so to that woman. The woman opens the window and looks outside, wondering if it is a misconception. Pukar flaps his wing with full force as needs to return to Tyre quickly. A few days later, Lucina asks Håkon what is all that he is showing her. Håkon says that these are tools that will be used by their child, as he is showing her baby toys. Lucina says that it's one child only and the toys are so many. Håkon smiles and says that it would be better to have enough tools, and that it would be good to store them in case another child comes in the future. Lucina gets confused and Håkon tells her that he would like to have another child. If it's not too much for her, the thought of seeing children resembling him and his bride makes him happy. Lucina smiles as it sounds good to her. She feels the same way as Haka. She says that it would be wonderful to see their children getting along. Håkon says that it is fortunate that Lucina has healing powers. Lucina says that healing powers are quite useful and anyone would be grateful to have them. Håkon says that he wasn't talking about it. He says that it's good that she is alive and healthy enough to have children. Håkon holds Lucina's hand and puts it on his chest. He tells her that it's Lucina who healed him in Brian and he wishes he had known it earlier. Lucina asks Håkon if healing abilities are rare in Tyre. He says yes, and Lucina asks him why didn't he bring her to Tyre the first time he saw her. Håkon says that it would be better if that happened, but at that time he thought that she had a family waiting for her. He says that changing the life of the girl who saved him felt like repaying kindness with enmity. So he brought her to the village's communal well. He would have protected her if he knew how poorly she was treated by the wretched individuals in the Marquise's estate. Lucina turns her head away from Håkon with an angry expression on her face and says that if it weren't for him, she would have escaped. At that she says that she couldn't escape because Håkon left her at the well and she was almost sold to King Brian. Håkon gets worried and apologizes to Lucina. He asks her how can he make it up to her, and she starts to laugh. Håkon asks Lucina if she is joking. Lucina replies positively and says that living in Marquise's estate was difficult, but in the end it led to them meeting again. She holds Hawken's face and kisses him on the cheek. She tells him that she is happy to be with him, and they kiss. Later, Puka has arrived at Lucina's room. She is happy to see him. She opens the window and says that she hasn't seen him for a few days. She asks him if anything has happened. She thought that he was being chased and would end up dead. She asks him if there is a flock of birds near there and gives him a peanut. Puka says that not so long ago he switched to Everon. He checked the data there and seemed like he had been caught. Lucina gets worried and asks him what is he talking about. She asks him if he is doing dangerous things and says that she doesn't know much about fairies, but he could get himself hurt. She tells him that can't even use her healing powers. Puka tells her that he is tired of looking into the mirror and he wonders if he should tell Lucina about this. He waves his hand and tells Lucina to lean in. He tells her that he saw someone at the Count Burke's who looked exactly like her. Lucina is shocked. Puka tells her that Marquita Beard acted as if it was her own. He tells her that it seemed like that person mentioned her name, and asks her if she has any guesses about that mysterious figure. He says that it could be her family or something. Lucina asks Puka if it is someone who looks exactly like her, and Puka says yes. He tells her that at first he was surprised thinking it was Lucina there. Lucina says that she has bad feelings for some reason. She says that even if that person is indeed human, it is hard to believe that Marquis would take an interest in her. Lucina asks Puka if he is okay, and he replies positively. Puka says that since he doesn't Hawken, he'll talk to her. Once he tells her that he also left because he had a bad feeling about her. Puka picks up the peanut bag and gets up to take his leave. Lucina asks him if there is something unusual about that person, something distinctive to her. Puka tells her that to be precise, that person didn't look exactly like her. He tells her that the person has blonde hair. Lucina gets more worried, and Puka reminds her of her having blonde hair when he first met her. Puka reminds Lucina of her having blonde hair when he first met her. Lucina tells him that she has to dye her hair blonde because the king loves them. She asks Puka if that has anything to do with it. Puka says that the person could be a shifter. Lucina gets confused, and Puka tells her that a shifter is someone who can freely change their appearance. He says that once a shifter sees a person, they can imitate his appearance immediately. Puka tells her that he mistook her hair color when her hair was blonde. He says to Lucina that the person is pretending to be her. Lucina says that there is no reason to pretend to be her, as that person would have been sent to the king. She says that if there had been someone pretending to be her, then the evil one wouldn't be looking for her. Suddenly, Tidi informs Lucina of her daughter's arrival. Puka says that he should go, and he tells Lucina not to talk about the matter to anyone, not even Hawken. Puka leaves the room. Lucina shuts the window and tells Adar to come in. Adar comes and sits on the sofa. She says that it's been a long time. Lucina wonders why Adar suddenly came. Adar says to Lucina that she must be very surprised for her coming at such a late hour. She says that Lucina may think Adar had come to her room due to her mental health. Lucina gets embarrassed and tells Adar that she can come any time. Adar smiles and thanks Lucina. She slides a book across the table. She says that she came to deliver this book to her, and she tells her that she has been researching the dangers that the dragon child poses to the mother. She was hoping that the former queen would be able to deliver her child safely, but Garrett didn't like her idea. She said that if everyone could give birth to their teeth, there would only be more people who would threaten them. Adar thinks that Garrett stopped her by using black magic. Lucina can't believe that Garrett has been using black magic on Adar all the time. Adar says that it would be good to continue researching, but it would be difficult for her. She wanted to deliver the unfinished study to Lucina. Lucina says to herself that Adar has worked so hard on the research, and she also wants to help her. She tells Adar that she'll continue her research. Adar is surprised, and Lucina says that as the future queen, she wants women to carry the dragon child in peace, and for that she's decided to continue the research. Lucina tells Adar to leave it to her. Adar holds her hand and thanks her. She tells her not to try so hard, as she doesn't want to put pressure on her. A few moments later, Lucina goes to Hawken and tells him everything. Hawken is surprised. He says that he didn't know his mother had been doing such research. He asks Lucina if she has decided to continue it. Lucina says yes and tells him that she can read everything written in it. Hawken asks her if she will be alright, although she knows how to read and write now. He tells her that researching for medicines is not an easy task for pregnant women. Lucina says that she has studied hard, and Hawken says he's not saying Lucina can't do it. He's just worried that she works so hard during pregnancy. He tells her that the child of the dragon grows faster in the stomach. He tells him that her body will be heavy in the future, and he can't help but worry about her. Lucina tells him that she has been thinking about something. Håkon asks her what is it, and she says that she wants to get help from Jairus in the research. Håkon is shocked. She says that since no one in Tyre has studied more than July, with her help she will be able to complete her research and then Tyre will be stable quickly. Håkon says that Jaira is a criminal who uses black magic. He asks Lucina what if he tries to do something bad again. Lucina ensures him that he won't do anything, and swears as is the future queen of Tyre. Håkon tells her that he will send Jaira to the palace soon as he is unable to refuse Lucina's request. In a few days the soldiers brought Jaira to the palace. Lucina greets him with a smile and Gale asks her if she is the one to call him. Lucina says yes, and tells him that she wants him to help her. She tells him that Adar spoke about making a medicine that would help women to conceive a dragon child safely. Jaira takes a look at the research paper and Lucina tells him that Adar can't continue the research, and she can't do it alone, so she wants his help. She asks him if he will help her, and Jaira asks how can he refuse her. Lucina gets excited, and Jaira tells her to ask him for anything if needed. Lucina can't believe that Jaira still believes her. The soldier asks Jaira if he wants to go to the lab prepared by the king, and he replies that he wants to start the research as soon as possible. Jaira turns around and walks away thinking that he will get to see Lucina's smiling face again if they succeed in this study. A few days later, Jaira is working in the laboratory in King, and Lucina enter the place. Håkon asks Jaira how is the research going, and he replies that the materials left by Adar are quite helpful and says that the research is progressing quickly. Håkon tells him not to be hasty and make the safest medicine for the mother. Lucina is surprised to see such a place underground in the palace. Håkon asks her what is she thinking, and she says that she didn't know about this place being in the palace. She says that it's not as wide as the palace, but the basement is quite large. She says that this place must be used for keeping criminals as there are so many prisons. Håkon and Lucina turn to leave the place and Jaira tells them to wait for a moment. He tells them that there is something he would like to research further. Håkon asks him, what is it? And he says that he wants to study Lucina's healing powers. He says that her powers are too strong, but even she doesn't know where she got her powers from. He says that Lucina will be able to use her power in a wider range if she gets to learn more about it. He says if Lucina's healing powers are an acquired ability, and if her powers can be transferred to another person, then it might be possible to turn someone into a healer. In this way, they might be able to completely get rid of the plague from the Tyre. He says that they might be able to create a panacea. Using the powers, he says that he needs Lucina's blood for the research. Lucina smiles and says that she likes the idea and she will be happy if more people can help with her powers. She says that she feels from Goliath's words that he is not lying. Håkon also agrees with Lucina and grants permission to Jaira to study Lucina's healing powers. Later, Adar and Lucina are sitting in Lucina's room together. Adar closes a book and says that she'll end today's class. Adar tells Lucina that Tyre's etiquette must be unfamiliar to her, but she has adapted it quickly. Adar suddenly looks at Lucina's belly in surprise, and says that her stomach has already grown so much. She tells her that dragon children grow faster in the womb compared to a human children. She also tells her that her belly will be heavier in the future. She asks Lucina if she is fine, as she used to face several morning sicknesses during her pregnancy. Lucina tells her that there is no problem, and Adar is glad for her. She gets up and leaves the room, telling her to take care as she leaves the room. Lucina is standing by the door of her thinking that her body is still not tired even after being pregnant. She wonders if it's because of her healing powers. She hears a knock on the door and she wonders if Adar is back already. She opens the door and Håkon comes in. He asks her if her class is over already. Lucina asks him if he isn't stopping a lot by her room these days. Håkon smiles and says that it's fine as he is not neglecting his work. He is lying as earlier Turan was angered and wondering where Håkon went. Håkon sits on the sofa and tells Lucina that he has some good news to tell her. Lucina gets excited and thinks that she has got a reply from the Brian King for the letter she had written her. Håkon tells her that he has decided to build a completely new palace for her. Lucina gets shocked and Håkon tells her that the new palace will be made of royal gold and the furniture will be of the highest quality. Lucina says that she thinks that the current queen's palace is beautiful enough. Håkon says that it's good not enough. He tells Lucina that he wants her to be treated as the best queen in the history of Tyre. He says that what she eats and wears should be of top quality too. He tells her that she's worth everything. Lucina wonders if other people agree with this idea, as she thinks that it's just Hawken's thoughts. Hawken asks Lucina what color of clothes he should wear at their wedding ceremony. He says that gold would be a good color for jewelry and asks Lucina if she wants another color. Lucina asks Hawken about the letter sent the Emperor. She asks him if he has received any reply from the other side. Hawken stays silent and Lucina wonders if she surprised him with her question. Hawken tells her that the letter sent to the Holy Emperor of Brian has not received any reply yet, as it should have arrived by now. Hawken pats Lucina's head and says that she is so passionate about running the country. He says he needs to reflect. Lucina wonders why has she not received a reply yet. She thinks that the Emperor doesn't want to come to Tyre. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jaira is in the laboratory and holding a small container containing Lucina's blood. He pours a drop of Lucina's blood into another container with some medicine and says if Lucina's healing powers extend to the blood, then the blood will react with the medicine. He says that Lucina is Bonberg's illegitimate daughter, and he suddenly notices a reaction in the container caused by the medicine and the blood. Jaira gets shocked and wonders what kind of reaction is this. Jaira is flipping the pages of a book in a hurry. He can't believe that Lucina is a half-moon. His sister had told him that Lucina was the daughter of a prostitute. He wonders if the results are wrong, or if Lucina is misinformed about her birth. A soldier enters the laboratory and tells Jaira that the king asks for the progress of the investigation. Jaira wonders if he should tell Hawken about Lucina being half-moon. He then shakes off his thought of doing so not to cause any misunderstanding. Jaira tells the soldier that he thinks he needs to advance a little more in the investigation. The soldier understands what he said and leaves. Meanwhile, Lucina is reading a journal and wonders if it's the correct interpretation of Audar's research journal. Hawken tells Lucina to take a break and gives her a fruit to eat. Lucina tells him that she can eat herself, and Hawken says that her hands must be tired so he will feed her. Lucina smells the fruit and suddenly feels strange. Hawken asks her what is wrong, and Lucina quickly covers her mouth as she feels like vomiting. A few moments later, Lucina tells Hawken that she is fine, and Hawken can't believe what's happening to her. He says they must call a healer immediately. The healer tells Lucina that she is having morning sickness, and she remembers being told by Adar about the morning sickness, as she had also faced such issues during her pregnancy. She says that Adar told her the same thing and asks if she is also facing the same issue. The priestess says that morning sickness has many symptoms, but it seems like Lucina reacts to the smell of certain foods. She tells Hawken to know which food, cause Hawken says that he needs to find what Lucina can eat even with the morning sickness. A few moments later, Turan asks Hawken what's wrong with him, and he tells him about Lucina's condition. Turan gets excited and says he knows what can cure morning sickness. Hawken asks him what is it, and he says that he knows a fruit that calmed his mother's morning sickness, restored her appetite, and kept the nausea away. Hawken asks him what is that, and Turan tells him that it's a fruit from the hot southern continent. Turan whispers in his ears and tells him that it's very difficult to get the fruit as it comes in small quantities. Hawken says that there is nothing that he can't have, and orders his servants to prepare his horse. Turan gets shocked. He rubs the back of his head and says that the fruit is not easy to obtain. A few moments later, Hawken knocks on Lucina's door. Lucina opens the door and asks him what's the matter. He shows her a sack of fruit and tells her that he heard that the fruit cures morning sickness, so he brought it for her. Lucina asks him if he brought all of them, and TT asks if isn't that fruit expensive. Lucina asks Hawken when he got all of them, and he says that it's not a big thing as he would do anything for her. Turan is standing behind Hawken. He gets weird and says that it is no big deal as Hawken almost stole the fruits. A while ago, Hawken and Turan are riding their horses. Hay stop by a shop of fruits, and Hawken asks Turan if this is where they sell the fruit. Turan says yes, and D also tells him that he doesn't know if they still sell that fruit. He suddenly looks at some fruits outside the shop, and he tells Hawken about it. The shopkeeper gets scared to see Hawken and hesitantly asks him what he wants. Hawken asks him about the cedar fruits, and he tells him that someone just bought them all. Hawken asks the shopkeeper if the other person bought them a while ago, and he replies positively. Hawken says that in that case he will catch him right away. Lucina asks Hawken if he stole the fruits, and Hawken asks her what she means by stealing. He tells her that he has paid a fair price for the fruits and that Turan is just exaggerating the situation. Turan says that it was almost extortion. Earlier, Hakan had caught the man who bought those fruits and told him to give all of the fruits to him, and offered to give him a lot of gold in return. Turan asks Hakan if he has seen the man's face, and Hakan asks him if he saw him paying him a fair price. After that, Lucina tells Hakan that she is glad that Hakan didn't steal the fruits, but she can't eat all the fruits. Hakan says that it is always better to have more than to lack. Turan holds his head and says that he already told Hakan that the sack would be too much. Lucina tells Hakan that she appreciates how much he cares for her, and she tells Hakan that they'll eat all the fruits together. A few weeks later, in Brian Kingdom Temple, a servant enters the place and brings some letters with him. He says that these are the letters that have arrived for His Holiness. He mentions that one of the letters is from Tyre, so the delivery is late as it had to be checked in advance. The servant is then told to leave the place, and so he does. The man who took letters from the servant is going through them. He looks at the letter and finds Lucina's name written on it, as it has been written by Lucina herself. The reads Lucina's name, and is surprised to see her name on the letter. A day later, Hakan and Lucina are standing together, and Turan runs to them and informs them that a reply has been received from Lord of Brian. Hakan says that he thought he was ignoring them because he hadn't responded yet. Lucina gets excited and asks Hakan if she can open the letter right away, and he smiles and says yes. Lucina opens the letter, and the letter mentions the visit of the Lord of Brian to Tyre. Shortly, she tells Hakan that the Lord of Brian must be coming to Tyre in the future to return the artifact. Hakan agrees with her and says to himself that there are no words of rejection or approval in the letter. Also, it's a sudden visit between the two countries that have never had any exchanges before. He hopes that the visit is a good sign, as Lucina thinks. A few days later, Turan is leading the carriage of Brian Lord and his men. He tells them they will have to test for a few hours to let the horses rest, as they must be tired. Lord Brian's soldier informs him about the rest, and he agrees with it. Turan looks at the Lord and cannot believe that he is over 80. Lord Brian appreciates the scenery of the place. Turan looks at him and wonders if Hakan will welcome him. Meanwhile, Lucina is busy making preparations to host the Brian Lord. She tells the servant to take the food to Titi. Hakan comes and hugs her from back. He tells her that she is now the rightful queen of Tyre, and she did a great job preparing without Adar's help. Lucina says that it's all because Adar teaching her about the Tyre culture and traditions. Hakan tells her that the decorations were supposed to be used for their wedding, but it has come to this. He asks her if she is going to use the decorations brought for their wedding in the welcome ceremony of Lord Brian. Lucina says that nothing is ready because everything has been decided suddenly. Hakan tells her that he bought them for her and that she shouldn't use them now. Lucina says that they have to welcome the Emperor if he is going to return the artifact, and she is not giving in. Hakan takes a deep breath. He tells Lucina to do as she wants to, as he can't beat her. Lucina promises him that she will decorate their wedding much better than this ceremony. She holds Hakan's hand and tells him that she won't be wearing the dress that he ordered for her, and tells him not to be disappointed. Hakan hugs her and asks her how can she be so sweet and beautiful. He smiles and says that he'll just wait for the wedding day. Lucina says that he is just teasing him and he has already her permission. Hakan starts to laugh. He asks Lucina where is the gold she asked him for, saying she needed it, for she tells Hakan that she has given that gold to ladies in waiting. She says that if she rewards those people who work hard, then they will work harder. Besides, they will also be very tired, so it's good to give them a reason. Hakan taps Lucina on her shoulder and appreciates her efforts. He tells her that a horse doesn't run just because you whip it, and she knows how to cherish the ladies in waiting. He tells him that she will be a great queen. Suddenly, Titi comes running towards them and informs them that the Knight Templar has arrived instead of the Emperor. Hakan tells Lucina to take care of the banquet preparation, as he will go to greet the guests. Lucina had never seen this nervous. She wondered if it was because the Grand Master was a great person. Hakan can't believe that the Grand Master has come to Tyre. He wonders what could be the reason for a person who has been inactive for 20 years to suddenly come to Tyre. He says that just a simple letter cannot move his heart so much that an 80-year-old man would come to Tyre in person. Hakan's servant tells him that His Majesty has arrived. Hakan greets him and the Brian Lord thanks Hakan for accepting his sudden visit. Hakan looks at him and says to himself that he must be above 80 years of age. He wonders if he is using his divine powers to keep himself young. Lord Brian tells Hakan that he is sure Hakan would have been shocked to know about his visit. Hakan tells him that he hopes he will rest comfortably in Tyre, and Lord Brian says that he is looking forward to his time in Tyre. The welcome ceremony for the Lord has been started, and the guests have also arrived. Lucina is standing with Tidy wondering if she will be able to do it. TT cheers him up and tells her that the preparations are perfect. Lucina thanks TT and tells herself that she can do it. The soldiers beat the drum, and Lord's guards walk up the stairs dressed in their armor. People look at them and wonder if they are from the Holy Knights and say that their outfits are quite strange. People continue to chatter, and Hakan is standing with Lord Brian. They pass across the guards and the people clap for them. TT looks at Lord Brian and gets surprised, saying that she heard of him being 80 years old. Lucina tells her that she heard the same, and TT says that he looks young. Lucina tells TT that she will go and greet the Holy Emperor. She goes to Hakan and he introduces her to the Brian Lord as his wife. Lucina greets him and tells him that she is glad to meet him. She is glad she didn't stutter. Lord Brian tells Lucina that it's nice to meet her. He holds Lucina's hand and kisses it, saying that he read Lucina's letter. She remembers the letter has many incorrect letters and was of quite a childish tone. Lord says that he came to Tyre because of Lucina's letter. Hakan tells him that the dancers have prepared a dance for him, and following the dance, a dinner has been prepared. He tells him that after the dinner they can discuss the relics together. Lord replies that talking about the relics might be difficult at the moment, but the reason he has come to Tyre is to talk to Lucina. Hakan asks him if he is talking about his wife. He replies yes, and requests Hakan to make time for him and Lucina after dinner. Lucina can't believe that the Lord came to Tyre because of her, not the relics. After the dinner, Lucina and Lord Brian are sitting inside the room, and Hakan is standing outside with Turan burning in jealousy. He wonders what will Lucina and the Lord talk about. He asks Turan if he heard any news while bringing the whole Emperor. He asks if he is here just for Lucina or if he has something up in his sleeves. Turan tells him that he heard from the Holy Knights that the Holy Emperor decided to come to Tyre as soon as he read Lucina's letter. Hakan says that it means he is here for Lucina. Turan says that Lucina requested a holy relic. He thought that he would naturally grant Lucina's wish, but it seems like a different case. Hakan asks if the whole Emperor is interested in Lucina's healing powers. He remembers Lucina wrote about her healing powers in the letter, and says that it is only natural for him to take an interest in this matter because of Lucina's powers. He says that no matter how old the Emperor is, he still looks young. He is afraid he is interested in Lucina. Hakan tells himself not to jump to any conclusion and to wait for their conversation to end. On the other hand, Lord asks Lucina about her childhood, and she says nothing. Lord tells him not to worry. He says he knows the story roughly. He says that he's just concerned and worried. He's curious about when Lucina started having healing powers. Lucina remembers that Hakan was afraid that the Emperor might mistake her words, so he already told him in advance. Lucina says that she is an illegitimate child of the Baroness, and that's why she hates her. Lucina says that the Baroness often used to hit and scold her, and her wounds started to heal when she touched her injured areas. But even after discovering her powers, she didn't use them often. Lord Brian asks her if she is afraid of being hit after healing her wounds, and she says yes. Lord Brian gets upset and asks Lucina if she ever resented her parents, and she says that she never had that thought because surviving each day was her top priority. She adds that even if her mother was a good person, then she wouldn't have abandoned her in the first place. Lord Brian apologizes to Lucina and says that he should have come here long ago. Lucina wonders why is he feeling sorry for her, and she tells him that she is fine now, because she is Hakan with her. Lord Brian says that it looks like the Tyre King is treating her quite well, and she replies positively. She tells him that she and Hakan truly love each other. Lord Brian says that it is okay with him and asks Lucina if she is satisfied with living Entiac. On the other hand, Hakan is walking here and there, and Turan tells him not to worry. He tells Hakan that he heard of Lord Brian having a woman that he loves. Hakan asks him if he is sure, and Turan says that Lord Brian loves a woman who is like the spirit of the moon. He says that she is white and beautiful from head to toe. Hakan gets angry and says that the Holy Emperor loves a woman who looks exactly like Lucina. Turan gets shocked and tells Hakan that can't just push the drawing room's door and enter like that. He tells him to calm down and not to be jealous of the Holy Emperor. Hakan agrees and says that he is right, as jealousy can cause big problems. He is still bothered by how the conversation between the Emperor and Lucina is taking so long. He says that the Emperor hasn't been able to enjoy the banquet they have prepared for him yet. He tells Turan that he is going to Lucina not because of his jealousy of the Holy Emperor. He leaves and Turan says that he is definitely jealous of the Emperor. Hakan knocks on the door of the room and calls for Lucina and asks the Lord if he is inside. Turan is glad Hakan didn't rush into the room. Lucina hears Hakan's voice and wonders if something urgent happened. She gets up and opens the door. She asks Hakan what brought him here, and he says that he was worried that the conversation was taking so long. He also asks Lucina what were they talking about. The Lord had asked Lucina if she was satisfied living in Tyre with him, but she couldn't complete her sentence and said that Hakan wouldn't like it. Lord Brian asks Hakan if he is bothered because Lucina is with him. Hakan says that it's not like that. He says that he can go and enjoy the banquet if he is done talking. Lord Brian says that is enough and tells him to let him finish the conversation. He asks Hakan if he can rest here for a while as he is quite tired from enjoying the banquet, and it tells Lord Brian to do as he wishes. He tells him to excuse them and turns away. Lucina asks Hakan if something happened at the banquet, as his expression doesn't look good. She tells him to let her know if there is any problem. Hakan says that nothing had happened at the banquet and that she had prepared it perfectly thanks to her hard work. Lucina asks him the reason for his expressions, and he says that he as the king is jealous at the moment. Lucina is confused, and he tells her that when he saw her with the Holy Emperor they both looked so good, and he thought that they had been together since the beginning. He says that he felt jealous even though he knows that Lucina loves him. Lucina asks him if that is the reason why he made excuses to take her out of the room. Lucina hugs Hakan and tells him not to be so hard on himself. She says that she will also feel jealous to look at him talking to another woman. She tells him that looking at the person whom we love with the opposite sex makes us jealous and it can't be avoided. Hakan tells her that that's what he heard, and she tells him not to worry as she'll always be by Hakan's side. Earlier Lord Brian asks Lucina if she is satisfied living in Tyre, and she replies positively, wondering why would he ask such a question. He tells her that he heard that her coming to Tyre was not her decision. Lucina tells him that he is right, but she mentions that in Brian she was in constant pain, but it's completely different for her in Tyre. She says that she thinks that Hakan has saved her. Lord Brian is unfortunate for such events, and she asks him why is he unfortunate. He tells her that he wants Lucina to go with him to the temple. Lucina asks him what he means by saying that, and he tells her that he's talking for the time being only and not permanently. Lucina remembers. She couldn't give the Lord any answer about leaving Tyre. Lucina asks Hakan if he can go to the banquet first. Hakan agrees to her, and she tells him that there is something that she wants to tell Lord Brian, but she couldn't say it earlier. She wants to tell him that she has no desire to leave Tyre. She leaves quickly and tells Hakan not to worry as she will be right back. Hakan smiles and tells her not to worry too. Lucina goes to Lord Brian and he says that he knew she would come back. He asks her if she is here to give him her answer. She replies positively and wonders how did he know that. She questions herself if a person can predict whether he be able to know something like this. Lucina sights down and tells him that she has no intention of leaving Tyre. Even for a short time. She says that she is the queen of Tyre, hence it's more difficult for her to do so. Lord Brian tells her that he knows Lucina is in a difficult situation, but there is a reason he wants to take her to the great temple. He apologizes to her for not telling her this earlier, as he has come here from Brian just to tell her about this. He says that Lucina and her baby could be in danger, especially in Tyre. Lucina gets scared and asks him what is he trying to say. He tells her to calm down and tells her that there is someone after her baby's life and it would be difficult for her to protect him in Tyre after his birth. That's why he wanted to take her to the great temple with him as he could protect her. He tells her that he would like her to reconsider her decision. Lucina is anxious. She says that she can't take this decision alone, and she has to talk to Hakan about this. The next day Hakan and Lucina are sitting with Lord Brian. Hakan tells him that he heard that he wants to take Lucina to the temple, and asks him to explain himself. He asks Hakan if he knows about a monster called shifters. Hakan replies positively, and Lucina wonders if it's the same creature that can change its shape freely. Hakan says that those shifters have often attacked Tyre as well, but the attacks have quieted down these days. Lord Brian tells him that right now the shifters are planning to conquer Tyre differently. He says that the leader of the Dragon Slayers is a shifter and has started to bring most of them together as they were on their own until now. Hakan asks if he means to say that most Dragon Slayers are dragon shifters. He says yes, and also mentions that the leader of the shifters is after Lucina's child. Lucina wonders if it has anything to do with the person that Puka mentioned who looks exactly like her. Hakan says that he roughly understands the situation, but there are some parts that he couldn't understand. He asks about the reason for going to the temple for protection against the shifters, and also asks how the Holy Emperor knows all of the shifters' plans. The Holy Emperor says that he will start from the first question. He says that the shifters are ultimate monsters as they are vulnerable to the powers of God, and that he can protect Lucina better in the temple. He answers the second question saying that he can't tell him right now. Hakan gets irritated, and Lord Brian tells him that he'll tell him when the right time comes. He tries to convince him that he genuinely cares for Lucina. Lucina says that she has something to ask. She asks if there is any other way rather than going to the temple for protection. Lord Brian says that there is no way other than to take shelter in the temple, and that they will have to eliminate all of the shifters before Lucina's child is born. He tells Hakan that he will have to declare war against shifters. Hakan says that the war against the shifters will take place someday, and it will be easier if the Holy Emperor lends them relics. Lord Brian tells Hakan to think rationally. He asks him if he thinks that the war against shifter will ever be over, and what will he do if Lucina gives birth before the war ends. He says that the shifters will attack Tyre as it will be left without the troops, and in that case, Lucina and her child, both of them, will be in danger. He tells him that he must have to send Lucina to the temple for at least the duration of the war if he plans to engage in a war against the shifters. Later, Hakan is sitting beside Lucina as she is sleeping. He says to himself that it would be right to send Lucina to the temple, but he doesn't want to separate her from himself. Lucina suddenly opens her eyes, and Hakan asks her if he has disturbed her sleep. She tells him that it seems like a lot is on his mind, and he asks her if she can see it in his eyes. She tells him that she can understand his expressions just by looking at his facial expressions. Hakan pokes her on her loss and says that she is lying, and she decides to give it a try. She says that he is worried that she might have to go to the temple. Hakan gets surprised, and Lucina smiles and says that she can tell just by looking at his expression. Hakan says to himself that he is jealous of the relationship between Lucina and the Emperor, but she is quite mature enough to understand his feelings like this. He asks Lucina what's better, leaving Tyre or staying in it. Lucina says that she'll consider Hakan's words before making any decision, and asks him why is he so worried in letter her going to the temple. She says that she doesn't like to be separated from Hakan either, but she thinks that Hakan has more deeper concern. She asks him if it's because he is Gyra of the Holy Emperor, and he says that he is afraid that she will not come back after going to the temple. Lucina asks him why he thinks that way, and he says that he doesn't know. He says that he feels anxious and frustrated when he thinks of her leaving him. He says that perhaps it would have been better for Lucina to be married to someone like the Holy Emperor. He says that he would be happier than being with someone like him, known as a barbarian. He asks Lucina if would choose him over someone else if she was given a choice. Lucina asks Hakan if he is a fool. Hakan is surprised and asks him how can she leave for Brian when she is going to be Tyre's queen. She says that she will never leave Tyre until her last breath, and she will be buried beside Hakan in the same grave after her death. She says that she won't be separated from Hakan even after her death. Hakan hugs her and apologizes to her. He says that he won't let go of her his entire life either. He leans in, holds her head and kisses her. The next day, Hakan and Lucina are sitting with Lord Brian. The Lord appreciates Tyre's weather and says that it's thriving but rains so much here that everything looks grey. He asks Lucina if she has thought about the matter, and she replies that she will not leave Tyre. She says that she is the queen of Tyre and shall not leave Tyre alone while Hakan fights in war. Lord Brian says that he thought that Lucina was still young and wonders when she grew up so much. Lucina asks for his pardon and he says it's nothing. He says that he can't force Lucina against her decision as he has no intention of taking her to the temple by force. He asks Hakan if he is preparing for a war against the shifters, and he says yes. He then tells them that he will send them a holy relic to help in the war against the shifters. Hakan and Lucina are surprised and shocked. Lucina says to herself that Lord Brian is still helping them even after she has refused to go to the temple with him. Lord Brian says that after all he only wishes for Lucina's and her child's safety. Hakan wonders if he can trust His Majesty, and Lord Brian says that it seems like Hakan doesn't believe him. Hakan says that if he blindly believes that Lord Brian would hand over such a precious holy relic without any conditions, then it would make him disqualified as the great king who rules Tyre. Lord Brian asks Hakan how can he make Hakan believe in him, and suddenly Ada joins them. She asks Lucina where has she been, and Lucina gets worried about looking at her. Adar tells Lucina that she has been looking for her for a long time. Tidy stands behind Adar and apologizes to Lucina for letting her guard down since Adar is in a good position. Lucina tells Adar to wait for a little longer as she will return shortly, and she refuses, saying that it's stuffy inside the castle. Lord Brian smiles and tells Adar to join them and says he won't mind. Adar calls him a handsome brother and thanks him. Harkin introduces her mother to Lord Brian and says that due to her old age she gets unstable sometimes. Lord Brian says that it seems like Adar has been affected by the black magic for a long time. He says that she has improved a lot, but the impact remains. Harkin asks Lord how he knows about Adar's condition, and he says that just by looking at her appearance he can judge easily that she has been a victim of black magic. He asks Harkin if he will trust him if he completely removes the traces of the black magic. Harkin is surprised and asks him if he can really remove the traces of the black magic completely. Lord Brian says that it's not quite difficult for him to do so. Harkin requests him to do so and warns him from doing any other tricks or else he won't let him leave unharmed. Lord Brian says that he will keep that in mind. He gets up, goes to Adar, and puts his hand on her shoulders. Lucina and Harkin are watching them in surprise, while Lord Brian uses his powers for a while and then stops. Lucina asks Adar if she okay, and she asks Lucina how did this happen. Lucina notices Adar's tone has changed. She tells Lucina that the black fog in her mind has been lifted, and Lucina is also left confused. Harkin says that it seems like because of the powers of the Holy Emperor, all the traces of the black magic on his mother are removed. Adar asks Lord Brian why would he help her and thanks her. Lord Brian says that he just did what needed to be done, and asks Harkin if he believes his intentions of helping Tyre now. Harkin says yes and thanks him. A few moments later, Harkin and Lucina go to the laboratory and tell Jaira that Adar has completely healed. He says that he has also been looking for a way to cure Adar, but it was quite challenging for him. Harkin asks him about the research regarding Lucina's powers, and he asks Harkin if he knows about the moon race of Brian. Harkin gets confused, and Jaira says that those who became the origin of the Holy Empire were often called the moon race due to their appearance. He says that regardless of whether they have divine powers or not, it is believed that they were given special powers by the moon. That's why they are called like that. She says that Lucina's are perhaps passed down from the blood of the moon race. Lucina asks if it is possible that there were members of the moon race in her ancestors, and Jaira says that it could be possible. Harkin tells Jaira to report to him right away if he finds any other ways to make better use of Lucina's powers. Jaira agrees and Harkin and Lucina leave. Later, Talan asks Harkin if the Holy Emperor cured Adar's illness. Harkin tells him that his mother improved dramatically in a single moment, and the Holy Emperor even let them lend the holy relics. Tuan still doesn't believe the Holy Emperor. He says to himself that it must be some kind of trick. He asks himself if Harkin has forgotten how the Holy Emperor is strangely friendly toward Lucina. He says that he won't let it be and will investigate the Emperor even if he has to do it alone. Harkin suddenly tells him that soon they will engage in a large-scale war against the Shifters and orders him to gather all the knights. The next day, Harkin tells Tulan that soon the council has been called and Harkin is sitting with his knights. He says that for a long time they have been suffering severe damage at the hands of self-proclaimed slayers, and he says that now they will be able to stand against them. He further speaks that the identity of the slayers is the magical beast known as Shifters. One of his knights asks who would have thought that the slayers would be the Shifters. Harkin says that the Holy Emperor has bestowed upon them a holy relic to shield them against the black arrow of the Shifters. His knight says that with the help of the relics they will defeat the Shifters easily, and Harkin says that it's not like that. He says that Shifters transform into the form of humans to deceive their enemies, and he says that they don't know the level of their intelligence. He says that they might not be able to defeat the Shifters if they transform into the form of persons that they cherish the most. A knight tells Harkin that there is only one way to undo the transformation of the Shifters. Harkin asks what is it, and he replies that it's the Black Hawk's mineral powders. Harkin gets confused, and the knight tells him that he heard that the Black Crows raised by the Ralph tribe possessed the mysterious power. Harkin asks even they can undo the transformation of the Shifters. The knight replies that Ralph has been called the natural enemy of the Shifters in the past, not because of their natural physical abilities, but also because they are uniquely skilled at commanding Black Crows on the continent. The knight tells Håkon that the Black Hawk manure powder is not easy to obtain outside Tyre, and also the Ralph tribe is not willing to help any tribe at the moment. He says that to fight against the slavers they will require a huge amount of powder, and asks how would they get such a huge amount of the Black Hawk manure powder. Håkon says that it's quite simple, as they will immediately reach out to the Ralph tribe, and if they help them then they will be able to easily achieve their goal of eliminating the slavers. Later, Håkon is sitting with Lucina and Lord Brian. He says that some of the commanders went to seek assistance from the Ralph tribe. Lucina has heard about the Ralph tribe first time. She asks if they are a rough tribe with a wolf-like appearance. Håkon says that it's not like that, instead they are quite an intelligent and polite tribe. Lord Brian says that the leader of the Ralph tribe was deeply in love with his wife, and that the tribe has diminished their interactions with the outside world. He says that he has contacted the Great Shrine, so the Holy Relic will arrive soon in Tyre. He says that the arrival of the Holy Relic and the return after negotiations will be around the same time if the negotiations go well with the Ralph tribe. Håkon thanks him and he says that it is to protect Lucina. Håkon asks why he cares so much about Lucina, and he says that he is worried for her because she is originally from Brian. Håkon smiles and says that he too feels attracted to another dragon. Lucina gets frustrated as Håkon is not Jyra. Lord Brian gets up to take his leave and says that he won't disturb their time together, and Håkon tells him to go safely. Lucina asks Håkon why didn't he go to the Ralph tribe, as negotiations would have become better if he had gone there. Håkon says that his presence is necessary to protect the royal palace in case the shifters attack in his absence. He says that he will protect Lucina, and they must win this war. He says that he'll destroy every remaining threat to her, and then they will rule the kingdom of Tyre in peace later. Lucina tells Håkon that he should stay safe and end the war without getting hurt. Meanwhile, a servant is standing behind them listening to their conversation. She has also heard about the war. On the other hand, the assassin's leader is in her place. She is reading a letter and says that it's interesting that Tyre is preparing for a war. She gets up and says that she can't let go or else it'll be a big problem if she gets caught. She says to her servant that they need to act on their side before Tyre completes their preparations. She says that she hasn't been to Tyre in a while, and her servant asks her if they should prepare to depart immediately, and she tells him to depart the morning of the next day. She says that seducing the Brian king won't be more than an hour. Later, she is sitting with the king and suggesting him to attack Tyre first. She tells him that those barbarians have also kidnapped his bride. The king says that's right, and as an apology from Berenberg, he decided to send gold every month, but they haven't sent money for the following month. He says that they are quite annoying, but still they can't attack first even in that case, as it's not quite possible for them to do so. The assassin's leader asks the king if he knows about the Dragon Slayers, and he says that he has heard that name before. She tells the king to hire the Dragon Slayers, saying that they have weapons that can easily harm the Dragon King of Tyre. Hence their victory against the Dragon Clan will be guaranteed. The king asks Marissa, the assassin's leader, how she knows all this, and she smiles, says that she knows about everything. Marissa grabs his arm and says that the only thing she doesn't know is probably the only way to win his heart. The king asks her if she will become his concubine if he returns victorious from the war against Tyre. Marissa smiles wickedly and says that she will gladly become the king's concubine without any hesitation. The king orders his trusted general to prepare for war. Intent on launching an attack against the Tyre kingdom, however, the general opposes this decision, arguing that they have no justifiable reason to assault the Tyre. The king's face flushes with anger as he commands the general to hold his tongue, proclaiming that he requires no reason to wage war against those he deems barbarians. The general remains resolute, pointing out that their forces have already been exhausted by recent battles and warning that they might soon face a shortage of men. Unfazed, the king orders the general to hire mercenaries. Leaving the man stunned, the king continues, revealing that he has heard rumors of the Dragon Slayers possessing weapons that are incredibly effective against dragons. The general's eyes widen in shock as he questions whether the king is acting on recommendations from others, and the king affirms, crediting Marissa for their recent success in hunting down dragons. The general grows more impassioned, urging the king to recognize the significant losses they have already suffered in their pursuit of the dragons. He declares that he will no longer allow the king to be swayed by Marissa's influence. In a swift motion, the king rises from his throne and strides toward the general without warning. He slaps the man, demanding to know how he dares to question his authority. The general is shaken to his core, struggling to regain his composure, as the king commands him to prepare for war within a month. As he turns away, the king threatens to strip the general of his position and cast him out if he fails to comply. A month later, Håkon stands before his warriors delivering a rousing speech. He declares that they are prepared for war, and must eliminate the dragon slayers, who are also known as the shifters. He asks his warriors if they are ready for battle, and they respond with a unified resounding affirmation, their morale soaring. Håkon acknowledges that while they have not yet received a response from the Ralph tribe, they still possess the element of surprise, and have a chance of winning the war. As the war officially begins, Håkon rallies his troops, proclaiming that it is time for the shifters to pay for the slaughter of their families. His warriors roar in agreement, their battle cries echoing through the air. Later, Håkon is galloping through a dense forest alongside Turan and other soldiers. He inquires if Turan has received any news from the advance party, and Turan reports that there has been no word, though he adds that the party must have reached the shifters' territory by now. Håkon mutters that the shifters are a troublesome group, while Turan confesses his discomfort with splitting up their forces, as he is accustomed to charging in and taking the enemy by surprise. Håkon reassures him with a confident smile, reminding him that they have the finest soldiers on the continent. Suddenly, a brilliant light flares in the sky, halting the entire army. It is a signal from the advance party indicating that they have entered the shifters' camp. Håkon feels a surge of satisfaction and quickly orders his warriors to pick up the pace. They must join the advance party and flush out the shifters, finally putting an end to them. Determined not to let any of the enemies escape, Håkon spurs his horse forward, and his soldiers follow suit, their resolve unwavering. When Håkon reaches the entrance of the shifters' hideout, his soldiers inform him that they are going to investigate inside. He instructs them to lure the shifters outside, aiming to defeat them without risking the lives of his men. As the soldiers depart, Turam commands the backup troops to take their positions, ready to counter any traps or surprise attacks. After a tense wait, Turan admits that something feels off, noting the eerie silence emanating from the hideout. Håkon nods in agreement, sensing the same unease. Suddenly, a soldier bursts out of the hideout, screaming that there are no shifters inside. Håkon is stunned by this revelation. At that moment, an arrow strikes a soldier, who immediately informs Håkon of the attack. Turan looks up to see the shifters standing atop a cliff and alerts the king. Håkon sees with frustration, realizing that the shifters had anticipated their every move. He orders his warriors to hold their ground and maintain formation, and they obey despite the escalating danger. Then one of his soldiers reports that another enemy force is approaching, leaving Håkon even more astonished. It is the Brian army, and Håkon wonders if they have allied with the shifters. Turan shakes his head, stating that he has heard nothing of such an alliance. The leader of the Brian army commands his troops to charge at the Tyre forces, initiating a fierce assault. Meanwhile, Turan notices the shifters preparing their black arrows and quickly informs Håkon. Realizing the dire situation, Håkon orders his soldiers to gather around him. Announcing that he is going to use the holy relic, he pulls out the ancient artifact, hoping it will work as intended. As the shifters draw their bows, the black arrows aimed and ready to fly, Håkon activates the relic. A radiant light erupts from it, enveloping the entire area in a blinding glow. Turan notices the shifters preparing their black arrows and immediately informs Håkon. In response, Håkon orders his soldiers to gather around him as he decides to use the holy relic. He pulls out the relic, thinking that the time has finally come to wield its power, while the shifters pull back their bows, their arrows loaded with the dark lethal shafts. As Håkon activates the relic, he hopes that it will function perfectly. A brilliant light emanates from it, illuminating the entire area with a radiant glow. The shifters unleash a barrage of arrows upon the Tyres, but the relic generates a formidable shield around them, blocking every projectile. Håkon's soldiers are filled with joy, realizing that the relic has saved them from certain death. The leader of the Brian army is taken aback, astonished to see that the Tyres possess the holy relic, a gift from the Holy Emperor. Suddenly, the leader looks to the sky and panics at the sight of dragons descending upon them. The dragons launch a ferocious assault, breathing flames and tearing through the ranks of the Brian army. The leader of the Brian army becomes terrified, understanding that the Tyres now view him and his men as absolute enemies due to their alliance with the shifters. Not wanting to incur unnecessary losses, he decides to retreat swiftly. The shifters also begin to withdraw, and the Brian leader is surprised, wondering what trick they might be planning. Turan exclaims that the holy relic has finally worked and expresses confidence that they will win this war. Håkon, however, warns him not to let his guard down. He notes that while the Brian army poses no immediate threat, the shifters remain a significant danger. He instructs Turan to stay alert, knowing that the shifters have vanished and could reappear at any moment to launch a surprise attack. Suddenly, an injured soldier arrives, claiming to have been attacked by the shifters. Håkon and Turan are surprised by his sudden appearance. Soon after, dozens of wounded soldiers begin to emerge from the surrounding area. Håkon immediately orders his men to bring the injured soldiers to the center of the shield and ensure that the shifters cannot breach their defenses. The soldiers obey his commands. As he questions the injured soldier for more details, he inquires whether the soldier saw the shifters. But the soldier replies negatively, stating that they attacked and vanished without a trace. Håkon directs his warriors to treat the wounded and begin a retreat, while he examines the soldiers' wounds to determine if they were inflicted by the black arrows. Suddenly, the soldier attempts to attack Håkon, but Håkon swiftly grabs his hand and demands to know what he is trying to do. The soldier then reveals his true form as a shifter. It becomes clear that numerous shifters have infiltrated the shield, launching attacks on Håkon's soldiers from within. Håkon is injured in the ensuing chaos, but he manages to take down a shifter. Turan suggests that they retreat to a safer location, as there is no longer any hope for victory in this situation. Håkon agrees and orders everyone to retreat with minimal casualties. Later, Håkon realizes that some of his soldiers are severely wounded and instructs Thran to fetch the holy water. Turan hesitates, reminding Håkon that the water has been reserved for critical situations. But Håkon insists that the situation could not be more dire. Håkon emphasizes that he needs to win this war against the shifters, but he cannot do so without his soldiers. Turan agrees, understanding the urgency of the situation. Håkon looks around at the scene of devastation and blames himself for the current predicament, lamenting that he should have trusted his instincts instead of relying on the holy relic. Turan returns with the holy water, and Håkon instructs him to sprinkle it on the soldiers, gradually increasing the amount of the wounds do not heal. Håkon walks away, saying that he will return shortly. He retreats into the bushes, contemplating whether his decisions have put everyone in danger. He takes a deep breath, wrestling with his thoughts, when suddenly Turan appears, smiling. Turan excitedly tells him that they have received a message from the Ralph tribe. He explains that the Wolf tribe has agreed to assist them and shows the message to Håkon. Håkon is surprised as he reads the message, marveling at their unexpected stroke of luck. Despite this, Håkon struggles to believe that the Ralphs are coming to their aid. Nonetheless, he resolves not to remain idle. He is determined to heal his soldiers and help them recover their strength as quickly as possible. Turan urges Håkon to rest, assuring him that he will take care of everything. Håkon smiles at his friend, his thoughts drifting to the end of the war. He yearns to return home and reunite with Lucina, whom he misses dearly. A few days later, a soldier on guard notices something unusual and immediately reports it to Håkon. It is the Ralph tribe, and they have come to aid the Tyres. Håkon swiftly leaves his tent to meet Karl, a representative from the Ralph tribe and its leader. Håkon recalls that the Ralphs had abandoned mercenary work a long time ago, ever since their leader Karl fell deeply in love with his wife. Håkon expresses his surprise that Karl has come to help after just one request. Karl smiles, explaining that he trusts Håkon more than anyone else, which is why he wasted no time in coming to assist. Håkon inquires about the requested item, and Karl confirms its safety. As he reveals bags full of Black Hawk powder, he assures Håkon that it will be sufficient for the war. Håkon nods, stating that it is more than enough. As he notices something else on the cart, he questions Karl about it. Karl leans in and whispers something in Håkon's ear, leaving Håkon stunned. Karl reveals that those who possess this item have never lost a war against the shifters. Later, a Brian soldier spots the Tyres advancing and announces that they are under attack. Håkon and his soldiers launch a surprise assault on the Brian camp, showing no mercy as they cut down their enemies. Suddenly, the leader of the Brian army appears and commands Håkon to halt, stating that if Håkon has anything to say, he should say it now. Håkon dismounts his horse and demands to know the leader's identity. The man reveals that he is the prince of the Brian. Håkon, with a stern expression, asks how a mere prince dares to command a king. The prince, embarrassed, admits that he understands Håkon's desire for the lives of the dragon slayers. He proposes an end to the conflict, offering to summon the slayers so that Håkon can kill them. Håkon is taken aback by this offer and asks why the prince would agree to such terms. The prince explains that Brian never wanted this war but had no choice but to follow his father's orders. He insists that he does not wish to see any unnecessary sacrifices. Tyrone, standing beside Hakan, questions whether they can trust the prince. Hakan tells Tyrone to instruct the soldiers to temporarily retreat, then orders the prince to bring out the shifters without delay. The prince agrees, promising that he will not forget this act of mercy. The prince warns Hakan that the shifters will use a different entrance and might launch an attack from high ground, advising him to be prepared. He then departs, and after some time, the shifters arrive at the Brian camp. Observing it from an elevated position, they are puzzled, wondering if the Tyres are foolish or simply fearless given that they have dared to attack the Brian camp. As their leader peers down, he notices that there are not many Tyres below and becomes suspicious, realizing that the Tyres have already retreated. Suddenly, black hawk powder is thrown onto the shifters, causing them to cough and panic. Carl emerges, his blade gleaming, and begins to cut down the disoriented shifters, remarking that his body feels relaxed for the first time in a long while. From a distance, Taran watches in disbelief, amazed that the powder could have such a powerful effect. Hakan tells him that the powder alone is not enough to harm the shifters, and explains that the reason the shifters are unable to use their powers is because of the feathers tied around his wrist. He hands some feathers to Taran for protection, and declares that he is determined to end this war once and for all, vowing to capture all the fleeing slayers. A few days later, a word of the events reaches the king, who is not pleased with the news. He rumbles that the barbarians are resorting to their tricks once again. Marissa overhears his words and tells herself that she did not want to take action at such a weak moment, but feels she has no choice now that the Tyres have allied with the Holy Emperor. She begins to act innocent, embracing the king and asking him the reason for his frustration. The king complains that the Tyres are using their old tricks again. Marissa, feigning concern, asks if they will lose the war. The king immediately denies this, asserting that they just need to wait a little longer. Marissa professes her love for him, but in her mind she thinks of the king as a foolish old man. She does not care whether Brian wins or loses, as all she truly desires is the day when Brian will be completely under her control. The Tyres discuss how the shifters have become an easier target now that their transformations can be undone with black hawk powder and their black arrows can be dismantled. Charles turns to Hakan and asks if he agrees that the shifters are now a simple enemy as he himself believes. Hakan, however, opposes this idea. He reasons that if it were true, the Ralph tribe would have eliminated the shifters long ago. Carl nods in agreement, explaining that while the temporary transformations of the shifters can indeed be undone easily, if they transform permanently, the black hawk powder cannot return them to their original form. Curious, Hakan asks how the shifters can transform permanently. Carl reveals that they achieve this by killing a human and consuming their heart. Hakan is taken aback as Carl continues, explaining that even after a permanent transformation, the shifters retain the ability to alter their appearance at will, such as changing their hair color. Hakan then asks if the permanent transformation cannot be reversed with the powder. Carl explains that the shifters might be affected, but any transformation is only undone in areas untouched by the powder. Because the shifters are clad in armor, it is difficult to incapacitate them with just the powder. Hakan reflects on their encounters, noting that they have only captured 10 shifters, as he believed there might not have been many left, but realizing that the war is going to take longer than he anticipated. Hakan admits that he misses Lucina even more. Meanwhile, in the entire kingdom, TT brings some books for Lucina, who thanks her with a smile. The books are about the moon race, Kima religion, and the Temple of Brian. TT mentions that Lucina has been reading a lot lately, and her reading speed has improved significantly. Lucina replies that she has nothing else to do, so she reads constantly, explaining that if she does not keep herself occupied, she will worry about Hakan all the time. TT feels sympathy for her and decides to leave, telling Lucina that she can call her if she needs anything. Lucina reflects that Hakan left some time ago, noting that the Tyre kingdom does not experience much seasonal change. In reality, however, Hakan has been gone for several months. She abruptly tells herself to stop thinking about Hakan and focus on reading. Lucina thinks that she should have learned how to write as well. Determined to handle some work and keep herself busy, Lucina opens a book and realizes that there is not much detail about the moon race. She recalls Jaira saying that the founders of the Kama religion were called the Moon People because of their appearance, and that Lucina had inherited healing powers from them despite her divine origins. Lucina is eager to know if she carries the blood of the moon race. As she flips through the pages, she finds an illustration of a beautiful woman and is surprised by the resemblance. She looks into a mirror and wonders if the woman looks like her. She remembers Puka the while talking about a person who looked exactly like her at the Brian Castle. The name of the woman in the book is Lerva Rumaru, and she is the princess of the Rumara kingdom where the Khmer religion originated. Lucina is astonished by the uncanny likeness and puzzled by the woman's youthful appearance. She wonders if Lerva is a distant relative. Suddenly a sharp pain grips her abdomen. Lucina struggles to move and realizes that the pain has become more frequent. Suddenly she collapses to the floor, recalling Hour's warning about the pain caused by carrying a dragon child. Lucina calls for Titi, who rushes into the room to find Lucina writhing in pain. Titi immediately calls for help, and soon after Lucina is lying on her bed with a Dara midwife and a cleric standing by her side. The midwife states that the situation is dire as the baby might be born prematurely. Titi is shocked by this revelation. The midwife explains that this often happens to those who bear a dragon child and adds that the biggest problem is the absence of the king at Lucina's side. Lucina insists that she is fine and tells Titi not to inform Håkon. But Titi asks if she really wants to give birth without the king knowing. Titi argues that the king should also share in the joy of having a child, and Lucina smiles and agrees. The cleric announces that she will inform the king, and a few moments later a white pigeon is released from the palace with a message. However, a black pigeon is also sent by someone else. As the white pigeon flies to Håkon's tent, the black one heads to Marissa's residence. With this, both Håkon and Marissa learn of this situation. While Håkon starts to worry for his wife, Marissa responds with a wicked smile. Marissa inquires about the war's status from her servant, who informs her that only 10 shifters have managed to survive. He mentions that things have been difficult for them since the Tyres allied with the Ralph. Maris expresses her surprise at how dire the situation has become, adding she did not expect it to be this bad. She instructs the servant to tell the remaining shifters to hold out for as long as possible. The servant nods, adding that those who have infiltrated Tyre must exercise greater caution. He then asks if Marissa plans to visit the palace, and she confirms, explaining that she does not want the king to become fearful and end the war. So she must continue persuading him to fight as Marissa walks away. Her servant alerts her that her hair color is changing again. She sighs, saying it is a nuisance, and she wishes the king preferred white hair over blonde. Marissa smirks and tells her servant to make preparations in advance, as she has to stop by a place before heading to the palace, which might take some time. The servant is surprised but agrees to make the arrangements. Meanwhile, the king is in a heated discussion with one of his advisors. He shouts, demanding to know how his forces keep losing despite being a joint force of the Brian army and the shifters. The advisor explains that the Tyres have formed an alliance with another group, and for some unknown reason the shifters' powers have also waned. The king asks about the military's condition, and the advisor admits that it is not looking good, revealing that the prince has ordered the shifters to stand by. The king is shocked and furious, realizing that the prince has been watching everything fall apart in silence without taking action. The advisor tries to defend the prince, but the king demands that the prince be brought to him, stating he will strip him of his position and appoint a new commander for the knights. A few days later, Turan approaches Håkon and remarks that he must be missing his wife. Håkon agrees, and Turan suggests that Håkon visit Tyre for a while, noting that the enemies are also in hiding and not currently attacking. Turan assures Håkon that he will handle the situation if anything happens, mentioning that Lucina might be missing him as well. Håkon decides to stop by Tyre, and Turan promises to start preparations as soon as possible. Håkon says that Lucina will have to wait a little longer for him. As he prepares to mount his horse, he instructs Turan to take good care of everything in his absence. Turan assures him to relax and leave everything to him. Håkon mounts his horse, wishing he could take his dragon form to reach Tyre faster, but knowing that doing so would alert the enemy. After some time, Håkon encounters the Brian army and its new leader, who asks where he is headed in such a hurry. Håkon becomes suspicious in response that he is also wondering about something. He questions why the Brian army is approaching the Tyre camp with weapons, and the leader states that he has been ordered by the king to eliminate all the barbarians. One of the Tyre soldiers tries to protest, but Håkon silences him, saying that he has had enough of the enemy's tricks. He recalls the Bryonians claiming they did not want war, yet here they are ready for battle. Håkon realizes that the commander of the army has been changed, which means Brian is no longer on good terms with him. He finds this absurd and declares that all the enemies will lose their lives while trying to achieve their goals. Hakan draws his weapon as the commander of the knights orders his soldiers to slay the barbarians. The battle commences. Weapons clashing violently, Hakan orders some of his soldiers to go and bring reinforcements while he holds back the enemy. A few of his soldiers leave, and Hakan becomes frustrated that such a delicate situation has arisen at this moment. The commander attempts to strike Hakan with his sword, but Hakan blocks it with his weapon and injures the commander, thinking that it is going to take longer than he anticipated to reach Tyre. Meanwhile at Tyre, TT asks Lucina if she is alright and Lucina reassures her. TT is worried about Lucina as the pain keeps increasing every day and is gradually becoming more frequent. Suddenly someone from outside the room announces that Lucina has a visitor. Lucina is puzzled by this news. The voice suggests that the visitor can be taken to another room if she prefers, or if she feels uncomfortable meeting the visitor in her room. However, Lucina decides she can meet the visitor in her room, reasoning that the guards must have allowed the visitor in, which means he must be trustworthy. The door opens suddenly and the Holy Emperor walks in with a smile. He greets Lucina respectfully, and as Lucina inquires about what brings him here, he asks if she may examine her physical condition for a moment. The Emperor takes a look at Lucina, and she realizes that the uncomfortable feeling has faded away. She smiles warmly, expressing her gratitude, and asking how she could possibly repay him for all he has done for Tyre. The Emperor dismisses the notion of repayment, insisting that he wants nothing in return. He only wishes for Lucina and her child to be well. Lucina is taken aback by his concern, noting how much the Emperor has cared for her since he arrived. She remarks that the people of Brian are fortunate to have such a benevolent leader. But the Emperor responds by revealing that he has been in a deep slumber for the past 20 years to recover his holy power. Curious, Lucina asks why he had to go to such lengths, and he explains that maintaining such potent powers is difficult due to his advanced age. Lucina nods in understanding, suddenly remembering the stories she had heard about the Emperor's old age. Everyone speaks of him as a very old man, and she realizes she had forgotten this in the presence of his formidable power. The Emperor reaches into his pocket, telling Lucina that he has something to give her. He hands her a small box, and as she opens it, she discovers a beautiful shiny necklace inside. Her eyes widen in astonishment at the sight of the exquisite piece. Overwhelmed by the gift, Lucina asks the Emperor why he is giving her something so precious. The Emperor explains that he has imbued the necklace with some of his own power, and that it will protect her in times of danger. Lucina wonders if she will ever find herself in such a situation, but she thanks the Emperor, promising to cherish the gift with all her heart. Suddenly TT informs Lucina that the midwife wishes to see her. As the midwife enters the room, she greets Lucina and notices the Emperor standing nearby. The Emperor decides to excuse himself, not wanting to be in the way, and as he passes the midwife on his way out, something about her catches his eye, causing him to become alert. When he glances at the midwife's reflection in his necklace, he is shocked to see her smiling wickedly. Without hesitation, he grabs her by the arm, startling everyone present, and denounces her as a filthy impostor. The others in the room are stunned as the midwife begins to laugh maniacally. Lucina feels a surge of fear as she thinks about herself and her unborn child. While the Emperor commands the midwife to reveal her true nature, he splashes holy water on the midwife, and Lucina watches in astonishment. But the shifter mockingly asks if the Emperor thinks it is too harsh to welcome her in this manner. In an instant, the shifter transforms into the form of the rumor princess, leaving TT in shock and Lucina